What's going on, everybody? This is Johnny Salmon, and today we're talking about the first two fights between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira. So these two are going to be fighting for a third time, this time in MMA, for the UFC middleweight championship this weekend. And I wanted to take a look back at their first two encounters in the kickboxing ring and what can we really glean from that and how that will play a part in their third matchup. Let's get it. So, what I noticed in the first matchup between these two is that Israel Adesanya was, he put on really a masterclass. And, spoiler alert, in my opinion, I don't really thought he lost the fight. He threw a lot of volume, landed a whole lot more shots than Pereira. And what from what I could see, Pereira really didn't have an answer for anything. He really was more of in a counter kind of mindset in that first fight. And there were times that he did catch Adesanya with some hard shots, but nothing that actually hurt him or put him on, like on rubbery legs or anything like that. From what I can glean in the first fight, Adesanya kept turning Pereira, kept literally turning him. He would always have a different kind of approach and attack, turn him, use frames, turn him, use frames, and then attack again. So Adesanya was on, this is probably one of his best performances actually when I saw him, like when you see how he handled Pereira. The amount of volume, the amount of different techniques, the amount of, controls he was able to use and get himself off of the ropes. And the defense he was using in that fight was beautiful. He's really flowing, really loose. I feel like Pereira was a little bit tight in that fight. And even though he landed some decent leg kicks here and there and a couple of shots up top, right hand and left hook behind it, for the most part, his volume wasn't really there. He stayed in the fight. He wasn't backing or shying away at all, but he just wasn't able to land enough for me to think that he deserved that victory. Now, the judges obviously disagree with me, and, this is what happens when you leave it in the hands of the judges. Really, that's the first fight in a nutshell. It's all about volume versus big power and countering. And I felt like Adesanya landed so much volume in that first fight that it was really hard to argue for Pereira. But Pereira was still able to get the win because I guess he cut an impressive figure enough and landed enough harder shots here and there in spurts to, I guess, be, favored by the judges in that way. In the second fight, what I noticed, right out the gate, Pereira used pressure immediately. Pressure, pressure, pressure in the first round, and he's really trying to hunt down Adesanya. Eventually kind of settled in, and he took his foot off the gas a little bit, and Adesanya started to work his way back into the fight at this point. But we still saw a different Pereira in this fight. He was moving a little bit more. He was bouncing. He was on his toes a bit more. He wasn't just standing and waiting for the counter to happen. He would engage, he would back off, and then try and counter after that. He used a much different approach, landed way more leg kicks in this fight. This is what I noticed. He landed way more leg kicks with more frequency. And you can tell Adesanya was in a different mindset in this fight. He had just lost his Glory Kickboxing Championship fight against Wilness. And you could tell he was really hungry for like a victory. Not just a victory, like a spectacular victory, a KO, something like that. We're not going to, say that his mindset is the reason why he lost and not Pereira. No, we're not going to do that, because when you go into that ring, it's your responsibility to have your head screwed on tight and have your game plan ready. So there's really no excuse. What I saw, though, was Adesanya that was less flowing and more seeking to engage in the pocket, more willing to exchange with Pereira, which I think is just a dangerous kind of game plan. But he was exchanging at points with Pereira, going back and forth and risking getting knocked out. he gave some, he got some back. You know, Pereira wasn't shying off or backing away, and he was able to land some good shots in the first round. The second round, though, this is where we see Adesanya kind of get his way back into the fight, kind of return to his usual style, and he started lighting up Pereira. He hurt Pereira pretty bad and gave him a standing 8 count. And a lot of these things were based off of using his frames again, using his long arms to set up frames, control Pereira, then fire shots after that, and then control him again before a counter could come out. When he was doing that and flowing like that, Adesanya looked like a world beater, like he usually does. But, you know, he hurts Pereira. Pereira gets a standing 8 count, comes back out. He works his way back into the fight again in the second round. He's able to survive the round. And round 3 starts. And this is where it gets really interesting because you see Pereira right out the gate again. Just like the first round, he just comes right out the gate. Pressure, pressure, pressure. And just putting a lot of pressure on Adesanya. And Adesanya was just looking a lot for some big shots. He would frame, he would defend, but he was really on the back foot in that round. And Pereira was just keeping that pressure going, flying knees. He was doing everything he could to put a lot of pressure on Adesanya through that overhand and then that left hook behind it. And that's all she wrote. Adesanya KO. The big takeaways, right, from that fight particularly is that Adesanya can't afford to stand in the pocket and just trade blows and just wait to counter with Pereira because Pereira is already great at countering himself and he has way bigger power. Now, what does this mean for the third fight in MMA? So, of course, we're going to be seeing similar things in this fight. We're going to be seeing more than likely a lot of volume out of Adesanya, and I believe Pereira is going to use his knowledge from the last 2 fights in terms of what is it like when I'm standing back and countering and being flat-footed, and what is it like when I'm moving forward and pressuring. So I think he has a formula in which he's going to, move between those two kind of styles. He'll pressure Adesanya to make him really feel his presence there in the cage, and then he'll back off. He'll be bouncing. You'll be, more ready for a counter-striking game right after that. Adesanya is going to have to use volume, like I said before, and a lot of movement to keep his back off the cage. The interesting thing is, Adesanya's style works very well for MMA, and the reasonings for that are his frames and controls. He uses long arms and his hands to literally grab onto his opponent's hands or frame on a shoulder, frame on a head, and land his shots. And that makes him way more dangerous, in my opinion, in the MMA sense. With those open finger gloves, he's able to control a lot better, get into tie-ups a little bit better. I would also think he should use a little bit of tie-ups here and there against the cage and knee Pereira's legs, take some of the gas out of him as well, go to his body, and not be hungry for the knockout. That is going to be very important for him, is to stay within himself. We've seen that he's been able to do that in recent performances and kind of just, point fight his way to a decision, which a lot of people are angry at, but we have to remember that this guy's the champion. He's being studied more than any other fighter in his division, and he has to play a smart game if he wants to retain his title. I'm thinking a lot of volume, movement, chew up Pereira's legs, chew up Pereira's body, and then get those controls going when he wants to go up top, right? Not just throw anything naked. When he's going up top, he wants to set it up with either a feint or with some controls and then go over the top through the middle and really catch Pereira slipping. Pereira, again, pressure, 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 chew up Adesanya's legs, right? This is the interesting thing because they both, I think, should be targeting the lower body a bit. Pereira should be chewing up Adesanya's legs, keeping high pressure on him, and not looking for big power. He needs to just touch his way in to really be more effective against Adesanya, especially in the MMA sense and with these smaller gloves. He's not going to have opportunity to really load up a big shot and cover more surface area with that glove. He's going to have to be a little bit more volume centric and getting his way on the inside, make Adesanya make a mistake, and then counter him off of that. If you guys like the video, give me a like, subscribe, tune into the fights this weekend, UFC 281. It's going to be pretty crazy. I really am excited to see what's going to happen, and I'll catch you in the next one.